Hello guys, I'm Sandeep here. Sorry, there was a technical issue. I forget to unmute myself. So today we are going to talk about very exciting topic of the Brigadis SAP on Azure talk from legacy to the cloud, and we'll take care of the agility, time, cost efficiency when going on cloud, specifically Microsoft Azure. We are going to talk about Embrace program, which will be taken care by Ahmed Wahid. So let me start with the webinar agenda over here. There will be a slightly delay in the live event, so I'm keeping my tempo a little bit slow over here. So this is the webinar agenda slide where we have scheduled and the topic people are going to take care of. In this topic, I'm just going to talk about the respective speakers as I'm your host, Sandeep Mahindra. So let me start with the first one. So the welcome message from my side on the agenda. I'm Sandeep Mahindra, taking care of SAP and Azure practice in Proms Technologies. I'm coming from the 14 years background of SAP and from last years focusing on the cloud solutions. With me, I'm going to have a session with our friend called Ahmed Wahid, who is a Global Alliance for SAP and Azure on the Embrace program. He will be joining in a minute. I'm just waiting for him. Third session will be talking about the key challenges and the lesson learned for SAP on Azure migration, the assessment. This session will be taken care by Ali Adel, who is a partner technology strategist with the for SAP in Microsoft. Then the next schedule, we are going to talk about the assessment and the migration areas. In the assessment, it is very critical point when we go for the cloud migration, and we need to understand the current landscape and the when we are changing the infrastructure from on-prem to the cloud, we have to take care of a lot of lesson learned from the previous discussion, like Ali Adel is going to discuss about it, and we will take care of the assessment. We are going to talk about some automatic deployment we have prepared as an accelerator for SAP on Azure customers. We are going to go with the solution package on Azure Marketplace as we're going to talk about in that section. Then the last we're going to talk about why Brums, and we're going to talk about SAP on Azure use case. This session, last two sessions will be managed by me as well as Hetal. Hetal is our SAP solution architect, and she will be taking care of the automation areas, how we are collecting the information, doing the workshop, and make sure the seamless migration of SAP land workloads on cloud. So this is in a nutshell. Then we are going to discuss about the question and answers. So I'm just waiting for Ahmed Wahid. Are you there? Can you please confirm?
Yes, I'm here, Sandeep. I hope you
Okay.
can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you very well. Thank you. Thank you so much. So next slide, I'm handing over to you. So that is your slide for SAP on Azure program. Over to you, Ahmed. You can proceed ahead.
Thank you very much, Sandeep and team. And good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. It's a pleasure to be here on this joint webinar. My name is Ahmed Wahid, as Sandeep mentioned, and I look after the global alliances at Microsoft for the Middle East and Africa region. And SAP is one of our oldest and longest standing global alliances. I think our relationship with SAP spans more than 25 years. And these are exciting new times where we are taking our relationship to the next level, and I'm here to tell you a bit more about it. But before I get into Embrace, let me tell you a little bit about, what's the momentum in the market, right? And I'm pretty sure our customers would agree with it. Number one, we know that enterprises are moving to the cloud. We have some numbers over here from different studies from Gartner and other sources, is that 80% of enterprises are no longer going to use traditional data centers by 2025. And we are seeing that in terms of the cloud usage and number of customers bringing their workloads to cloud. And 68% of cloud services today are delivered by hyperscalers. So it is the major chunk. So we know that there is a move to cloud that's going on. At the same time, we also know that SAP customers, all of you, are also on the move to S4 HANA. There is a major number of customers who are already either on the way or planning their move to S4 HANA. And we know that the majority of those customers are planning on deploying their S4 HANA solutions to the cloud because it makes a lot of sense both from economics perspective, from an agility perspective. So the numbers are there around, the move to cloud, the move to S4 HANA, and cloud being the preferred way to transform to S4 HANA. If you move to the next slide, from there, I start sharing with you a little bit around what that journey to S4 HANA looks like, and how is that linked to the Microsoft and SAP Embrace initiative. So we've both us and SAP got a lot of feedback from our customers. You all basically saying that the journey to S4 HANA on cloud, has some challenges. The customers get different point of views depending on who they speak to, either the system integrator or to the cloud providers like Microsoft or SAP, on how to transition legacy SAP systems to cloud. So there is a very different point of view depending on who you're talking to. That's the first thing that we got as feedback from our customers. And what that multiple point of views were creating was confusion, maybe also hindering decision making in terms of, okay, what does that clean or clear or accelerated path to S4 HANA on cloud looks like? So it was creating a little bit of confusion for our customers, and they felt like it was being put into, let's say, silos, right? So customers were asking us as Microsoft and SAP, as two major enterprise organizations and partners, to come together and basically create some clarity, create some perspective, create some recommendations, leverage our industry strength around what does that uh, transformation look like. And if you go to this next slide, what you'll see over there is that that has been the motivation behind the Microsoft and SAP Embrace initiative. It is a strategic alliance between Microsoft and SAP to basically deliver three promises to you, our customers, through our partners. Number one is around simplification. How can our customers, with the help of our partners like Brams, migrate with confidence? How can we simplify that journey to S4 HANA on cloud, right? The second motivation has been around how do we accelerate it? How do we accelerate you as businesses, become more agile, become more efficient, become intelligent enterprises, and how do we accelerate your move to the intelligent enterprise? And the third pillar of the Embrace initiative has been around innovation, because we all know how much innovation plays as a key role in business transformation. So a key pillar of our Embrace initiative was also around, once you have made the transition to S4 HANA on cloud, how do you innovate to stay on the leading edge of technology and the leading edge of your businesses, right? So really simplification of that journey, accelerating that journey, and setting you up for future innovation were the three main, let's say, drivers behind the Embrace initiative. Moving to the next slide. So what does that mean? So a couple of things. Number one, between Microsoft and SAP, we came together and we jointly developed technical blueprints, reference architectures that can be used by the customers, can be used by our partners, to basically get some guidance on what is the best practices move of S4 HANA on Azure. So some sort of a reference guide. That's the first step around, let's say, simplification and acceleration, right? The second one is around industry alignment. So as I mentioned, both Microsoft and SAP are very big enterprise companies, but we're also very big industry focused companies. So bringing our two teams and our industry expertise together, we got our industry teams to build market approved journeys. So what does that journey to S4 HANA on Azure look like for a retailer versus someone who's in the business of oil and gas? What are the trends in the market, and how can you capture those trends by using the SAP and Microsoft technology? So there is even a blueprint, not just from a technical point of view, but even from an industry point of view. We've created a blueprint that helps our customers reimagine what can S4 HANA on Azure do for you if you are in, let's say, the retail industry. So that's the second element. The third element is the platform for innovation. That's where we talk about SAP Cloud Platform. SAP Cloud Platform is the platform for innovation, and SAP Cloud Platform sits very strongly on Azure and customers who are looking at S4HANA transformation are also looking at taking SAP Cloud Platform as the foundation for that. So that is very critical to the innovation pillar in the Embrace initiative that I spoke to you about. And last but not the least, but actually the most important one, is the actual engagement, the services engagement. So how can partners like Brahms, who are hosting this call for us, use the reference architecture, the market approved journeys, use SAP Cloud Platform as the innovation platform to create an action plan for you that you can then take and roll out to actually make that move to cloud, to able to deliver the promise. The promise eventually gets delivered by our partners like Brahms. So that is a very critical piece, which is giving our partners the support and the reference architecture and the guidance is needed so that they can actually deliver on the Embrace initiative. So if I summarize Embrace really very simply, it's around simplification, acceleration, and innovation, and driving those three key main pillars or promises are the reference architectures, which are now available, the market approved journeys, SAP Cloud Platform as the platform for innovation, and the services partner engagement that delivers all of that to you. I want to move on to the next slide and tell you a little bit about the benefits. So first of all, as I mentioned, creating an action plan through our partners, which acts as a catalyst for you, is a key principle. Getting access to continuous innovation, especially through the SAP Cloud Platform for future innovation, and keeping your digital core clean. SAP Cloud Platform really plays a very big role on that. We're taking, as I mentioned, a very comprehensive approach, both from a technical point of view, economic value of transforming S/4HANA on the cloud perspective. And then, of course, last but not the least is, you as a customer under the Embrace initiative, you're able to leverage the best practices, and get access to, specialist resources from within our partners like Brahms, or even people like Ali Adil, who's on the call, and he'll be talking a bit more around that. So the Embrace initiative itself kind of brings all these benefits across to you as our customers. Moving to the next slide, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the customers who have chosen SAP S/4HANA on Microsoft Azure. Daimler is a well-known brand. We all know about it. It's one of our topmost global references. They have done their S/4HANA transformation on Azure a couple of years ago, and that resulted in almost 50% savings on their IT operations. So that was a great project. What you see on the right of the slide are also many logos, and we couldn't put all the logos, but the idea here was to show you we have a very strong portfolio of global customers and local customers that are making the move to S/4HANA and making the move to S/4HANA on Azure. I think some of the logos over here are more recognizable for our region, like Rack Ceramics, is a UAE enterprise. We have Penti from Turkey that I'll talk about on the next slide. So we have a very rich portfolio of customers who've already made that move to SAP S/4HANA on Azure. On the next slide, I'll just talk a little bit about two references from our region, which is Middle East and Africa. The first one is Guyana Goldfields. So that's again a fantastic SAP S/4HANA on Azure story. In this particular case, the customer was able to save 40% on their maintenance, and they were able to very quickly, bring up their environment on Azure far faster and much more secure than doing it on premise, while keeping the same IT size and still being able to address the demands of new applications. Penti is a very good example from Turkey. Penti is one of the largest fashion retailers in Turkey, and in their case, they also made a move of S/4HANA on Azure, along with Hybris for e-commerce on Azure. And for them, it was all about being able to get real-time access to stocks, merchandise, running their stores more smoothly, and being able to better manage the coordination between the headquarter teams and the 400 stores that they have around the country. So the idea here was to give you a very quick brief on what is Embrace, what's the promise of Embrace, what does Embrace deliver to you, our customers, how it simplifies and accelerates your journey, and who are some of the customers, who have trusted to use run their S4HANA on Azure, and how we deliver on all of this through our partners like Brams. So with that, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I'll hand it back to Sandeep, who will move it to the next presenter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you very much. It's very insightful information. Just to touch upon before getting in the transition with Ali Adil, I'm going to touch upon 3 points. Is one, simple, accelerate, and innovation. Simple, exactly for S4HANA, which is a new architecture facing S4HANA. Accelerate, it's better, like we are working on nowadays on acceleration program to move the on-premise on the cloud. So a lot of acceleration programs and innovations is coming from the Microsoft and SAP as well as a co-innovation. And we are helping the customer on the innovation side, where we talk about some of the areas like how we can integrate the Microsoft Office, O365, single sign-on, Teams with the board, how we can make a simplification into the operation cycle of any of the industry vertical. So we can use OData services, we can use other services of the platform on Azure, data like all this that comes into innovation. So these are the 3 areas. Acceleration is everywhere, but nowadays if you look at S4HANA, 80% of customers still need to move to S4HANA. So we have a lot of things to be done on the SAP space, and we are there to help you. Now I want to call Mr. Ali Adil, who is a partner strategist for SAP in Microsoft, and he is going to talk about the lesson learned and the key challenges while doing this kind of migration, which is very, very critical and important. So over to you, Ali. Can you please move forward?
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep. Hi, everybody. First thing first, I would just like to introduce myself. I'm Ali Adil. I'm the partner technology strategist in Microsoft for SAP, based in Dubai, and I'm covering the EMEA region. Thanks to Ahmed Waheed and Sandeep for giving this a briefly introduction about the Embrace initiative. I'm going to be mainly here just talking about the experience and the lessons learned from the customers across MEA all up when it comes to the SAP on Azure. So we actually inside Microsoft, we introduce the SAP on Azure roadmap for those customers who's even thinking at the moment just to go to the cloud and have the cloud driven for their business, or for those who is actually looking for to move to the S4. As most of you know that as per the SAP product availability matrix known as PAM on the SAP marketplace, SAP announced that they will stop their ECC maintenance by 2025. This is what's still written on the PAM over the SAP marketplace. However, SAP just launched another SAP note saying that they already extended it until 2027, and for some cases they also extended it until 2030 for some of their customers. So we have this roadmap here in front of us. This is to help the customers on how their journey is going to be to the cloud. So for those who's already still on-prem, having their ECC 6.0 and still having their NEDB, like DB2, Oracle, Sybase, MaxDB, you name it, and they just wanted to go for the lift and shift scenario that we have, which is the A. This is going to be like a brownfield for them. So they just want to land on the cloud, and then from there, they can take the decision on how they can move to the S4, whether they go directly to the S4 as an application, and then of course it's going to be on the built on the in-memory HANA database, or they're going to just take it into phases, like as we can see in B, like lift and migrate. So they're going to just go land it on the cloud first as is, and then they're going to just go Suite on HANA, and then from there they can go for the application of S4. Or for those customers who's actually thinking on doing it as a one step, at least for the database, like the lift and shift and migrate at the same time to the cloud, so they can land on the Microsoft Azure side on a business suite on HANA, and then they can move to the cloud, or the scenario that we have here as a greenfield. So we build everything on the cloud for the S4 on HANA for those customers who just wanted to go directly to the cloud based on S4. And this is also a good example for those new customers who just thinking on having the SAP ERP S4 for them, and they targetly actually going directly to the cloud with it. So this is basically the roadmap for the customers, of course, based on their business that they will need, and of course also based on their budget. But because, as my colleague Ahmed Wahid mentioned, for the simplifications, and also the customers can leverage from the scalability and flexibility of the cloud if they just wanted to go with the scenario A and B just to land on the cloud. So we can provide them with the infrastructure, the certified virtual machines that we do have from SAP inside Microsoft Azure. And then from there, they can decide and use the scale up scenario that we do have to scale up their virtual machines that's going to be hosting the in-memory HANA database, for example. So this is a good roadmap for the customers, depending on what's their plan to move to the cloud. So they have all the options that they can do just to go to the cloud as a first step, or just building it on the cloud based on S4 and HANA. If we go just to the second slide, this is going to be the challenges that the customer are actually facing when they actually compare between the on-prem and to the cloud. For those customers who's actually building everything on-prem, they are thinking about the infrastructure that they're going to build, and it's actually required from 3 to 5 years of commitment. We don't do this on the cloud because our virtual machines that we provide, the certified ones for the SAP workloads, if you can just go back, yeah. We actually built those virtual machines based on the utilizations of the compute and the memory that the customer is actually using at the moment. In this case, we are actually talking about those brownfields, as I mentioned in the earlier slide, for these brownfields customers who just wanted to land on the cloud. So by doing the assessment, which Sandeep here is going to show us how they do it, using the early watch alert, we see how the utilization for the compute and the memory, for example, and then we provide the customers with the certified virtual machines that they can leverage for this utilization. And once their business grows, then they can use the scalability of the cloud to do a scale up for their virtual machines. And then once their business grows, their virtual machine grows with them. Also, the second challenge that I just wanted to highlight, of course, is the sandboxes and the development and the QA systems that the customer will require also to have in their SAP landscape on-prem. So this is, again, another physical machines that the customer will require during the implementation of any SAP. And once the SAP system is up and running and it's in the go live state with the production, then the customer will still have these sandboxes and development system and the quality systems that they don't utilize much. So again, with the Microsoft Azure, we do have the Park and the Snooze option. So you still can have your sandbox and development and quality systems within your SAP landscape, but then you can use the Park and the Snooze option with them. If you can just go back to the previous slide. The last thing I just wanted to mention also is about the disaster recovery that we have. So this is another challenge that the customers will face whenever they have the production system. Then again, they need the equivalent for the disaster recovery part, and that's the power of the Microsoft Azure data centers. So we do have like a 58 regions worldwide with 140 available data centers across the whole globe, and Azure actually has more the global regions in any other cloud providers. So in every region we have actually 2 data centers. One is the DR for the other. So if we choose the nearest data center, 40 customers, then based of course based on the latency, then we can land the disaster recovery on the other data centers that's geographically located in the same region, so the customers can also leverage from the latency. So these are just the technology, and of course, as Sandeep is going to show us, the integration with the other Microsoft services that we do have on the Azure, where customers can actually leverage from those services as well within their SAP landscape with all the services that's available on the Microsoft Azure side. That's it from my side, and I'll just hand it over to Sandeep. Thank you.
So thanks, Ali. You also discussed about some lesson learned in the same slide. So I'm just quickly touch upon the couple of areas just to make it segmentation. So there is an assess, migrate, optimize, and security compliances. These are the lesson learned in the migration majorly. So it's majorly on the suitability and the migration efforts. You have to clean up your current data center because that is oversized based on the previous discussion or strategy for the on-premise for the 5 years, oversize all this stuff. So that is very, very important on the SS side. I will touch based on these areas in my coming slides where I'm talking about the assessment. So I'll just give you the look and feel of the assessment section and the migration. So I'm skipping this one because most of the information is already being covered by Ali. Thank you, Ali.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Okay. So we are going to share the survey in between. You guys will be getting this information via my backend team. Kindly fill the survey. We'll be projecting that survey just end of the session, or maybe in the question and answer round. So please look into that session and this survey information and fill the information. So now I'll cover the topic why SAP and Azure. So we have some significant information already from in the Embrace program by Ahmed Wahid. We got the information lesson learned from and the key challenges covered by Microsoft by Ali Adil. But a couple of other areas I just from the SAP point of view, there are a lot of SAP updates now based on the HANA and the S4 HANA. Now release is coming every quarter. So there are minor patches needs to be upgrades. Few things needs to be updated at the basis level or the database level just to keep it updated. When we go for the file sharing option or maybe like single sign-on OData services, some Power BI stuff. So all this stuff comes into the package into the Azure. So this is not only and only on the infrastructure as a service or the platform as a service. This is how you make best of the breed from the infrastructure point of view and the SAP application point of view. Microsoft is covering the complete workloads. At the same time, they're doing co-innovation on the integration touch points. They are keep developing the application just to make sure that information floating from Microsoft as well as on SAP, there has to be a proper handshake. So let me talk about SAP Cloud Platform. Ahmed Wahid covered it pretty well. So over there are a lot of integration touch points, modern workplace. There are a lot of security patches and which will work very closely with Active Directory, single sign-on of SAP, as well as with the Office 365. That is one of the another area. When you go for the licensing from Office 365, they have access to Power BI, the respective licenses. So they have a sufficient information so you can cover the security part, one of the area from the Active Directory. You can have a face-to-face conversation with the Microsoft people because they have a data center across the globe. They have the highest data center and people are readily available in the market to have a discussion on SAP and Azure. I know that's a little bit, it's on the progressive path right now, but you can have a discussion. On SAP, the new services, everything is coming with the co-innovation I'm covering over here. Even HANA Cloud Platform is running on Azure. SuccessFactors is running on Azure because they have a very tight integration in the backend with the SAP and Microsoft. They have a strong relation from last 25 years. Our friend Ahmed Wahid already covered this part. One more important part over here, when we go for S4 HANA, we have certified machines available. The series is available, like M series now available in the region. Earlier it was E series was available, but globally in the West Europe and other areas, M series available for S4 HANA and Suite on HANA. Some of the customers may go for NEDB, just a lift and shift scenario. Then all the certified machines is available, and we are referring to the SAP notes over there. So from the security point of view, also Azure has a highest the certification as well as the regional certification from the data privacy point of view. So this is in a nutshell from the SAP in Azure. Since we are covering in the beginning, I'm just giving a touch upon a couple of areas. Coming back to the next slide, this is quite important when you come for the SAP on Cloud journey plan as an activity. We discussed about the journey plan high level on the simple, accelerate and innovation, but I'm coming to the activities when somebody comes to for the workshop, understand the areas. So I'm covering on cloud assessment in the next slide in detail, high level. So SAP comes with a non-SAP application as well. We take care of the Azure migrate. We use Microsoft Assessment Planning tool and we use third-party tool as well, along with SAP Early Watch Alert. But we have experienced most of the customer, the EWA is not yet configured. They're using old system, they're using solution manager sometimes, but the EWA is not yet configured. So we take the manual information as well. My colleague Hital is going to take care of that manual part and going to talk about a little bit on the migration. We take care of the cloud migration plan, proof of concept, deployment, run and optimize. All this stuff we take care of in the activities. So in the next slide, when I'm talking about the TCO, there's a sheet we are covering. We are coming with our own application, which is going to most probably publishing on the Azure Marketplace. It's under process. For the POC as well as the cloud deployment, we built an accelerator. We have somewhere around 132 scripts are available as our own accelerator, considering all the SAP scenario from AnyDB to Suite on HANA, Suite on HANA to S4HANA, Brownfield, Greenfield, Bluefield, all the scenarios we are taking care of. It's the next slide. The moment we are over there, then we talk about the other innovations and modernization of the application. So we have the use case I'm going to discuss in the next slide. After that, we need to take care of the automation, the governance and the security point that is very, very critical. When you go on the cloud, you have to make sure the information, the data privacy is there. So this is in a nutshell from the SAP on cloud journey plan as an activities. Going back to the next slide. So these are why assessment is very critical. So we found when we go for the assessment, we look at these sometimes SAP using the Windows Server 2008 R2, which is under the extension of the support, but only on the Azure. But some of the Windows Server 2008 is not under support. So some of the areas on the OS level, on the application level, sometimes we come across SAP ECC 5 as well. So while doing all this assessment, we refer to the SAP PAM, which is a product availability matrix, to make sure we are doing the right migration plan. What needs to be upgraded on the on-prem, so we need to make it is Azure ready, then move on the Azure. Some compliances, some customers are saying we are facing the performance challenges on AnyDB. We recommend them for Suite on HANA or S4HANA. We discuss with them on the workshop and take care of it. Application innovation, similarly, some people are saying we want to go for Fiori apps or we want to go for S4HANA. We take care of all this stuff. Data center expiry is there. Sometimes the security threats are there, hardware refresh, because sometimes they're saying we are, I come across sometimes HP hardware, DL580, 380, which is a S4HANA certified, but in the next 2 years, the extended support will be closed for those hardwares also. So those kind of situation we need to take care. We published our free assessment on Azure Marketplace. We have all the deliverables over there, and we are more than happy to take your inputs after the session if you really want to go for it. Now I'm moving to the next slide. Hital is going to take care of this slide. Hital, can you please take over the slide?
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep. Hello, everyone again. How are you today? Hope you are having some SAP on Azure Insights today. Yeah. So I will be discussing a little bit about assessment also. As Sandeep mentioned that most of the customers do not have a solution manager most of the time. Even if they have the solution manager, EWA is not configured. So what we have to do, we have to take some manual observation or manual information by the T codes, like what is the landscape, what DB they are using, what is their workload analysis, what OS they are using, what ECC version they are using, whether they are using HA, high availability, if they are using high availability, what kind of scenario it is. So kind of all the information we gather in the assessment exercise. So here in the assessment exercise, gathering all the information is important. Apart from that, we do sizing work also. Sizing is very important aspect in case of SAP. I have seen many customers who goes upfront and have terabyte RAM as a memory, but that won't give them the required performance. If you don't configure your HANA memory, or let's say whatever memory you need to configure, if you don't do it properly, it won't give you the performance. At Brahms, we try to give the customer the performance-based memory settings or recommendation by the best practice by the SAP. Just a second, I need to drink water. So apart from the memory, we have many other parameters which we gather. We use lot of SAP nodes in case of memory sizing, and as Sandeep already told that if you have lot of data on the Azure, I mean on the premise you have lot of data, and then you take that server, lift that server on the Azure, you end up paying more. So sizing on disk and also in the terms of memory is very important. So SAP nodes plays important role here. Quick Sizer and other SAP nodes for S4HANA, which is ABAP report based, are very important to be followed. It cannot be overruled. So apart from sizing, we take all the information in the Excel. As you can see, we gather information as ID on instance number, if they are having workload which is OLAP or OLTP, if it is production or non-production environment. A lot of information goes in if they are having high availability, if they are using Astonic device or not. That kind of detailed information we take in the Excel. And why we are gathering this information? Because we have readily available templates which will be taken in the accelerator, which will be imported into the accelerator, and thereby we will custom the deployment on the Azure. Can you show that, Sandeep?
Yeah.
Yeah, so all the parameters which you see in the Excel are imported into accelerator, and thereby it will provision an instance into a Azure. And you will be ready with the SAP system. And if it is S4HANA system, you are ready with the Fiori as well. All these scripts use Terraform and Ansible in the backend to have all the system ready. And overall, we have 132 scripts which are used to configure all the scenarios. There are different scenarios, like some customers come with Greenfield. So Greenfield server will be ready within 25 to 30 minutes along with the SAP and their infrastructure. If some customer comes that they are interested in lift and shift scenario, in lift and shift scenario, once their infrastructure is ready, if a customer is ready for the ready to go, then we do their export import with SAP tools. Sometimes if a customer is giving input, said okay, we want to go with Microsoft tools, we use Microsoft tools as well. So depending on the customer's requirement, we configure the environment, and this all the scripts are customizable, and as per the customer's requirement, we do the configuration and we do the auto deployment on the Azure. So this is from my side. Sandeep, you can carry on with the innovation journey after deployment.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hital. Thanks for the insight. So let me jump on because we have 5 minutes left because we started a bit late, because I then will focus on the questions in the last slide. Let me quickly jump on the use case. This is very important. So we have done one SAP on Azure in North Africa. This is one of the biggest company in the agro-food FMCG business. They were using SAP with Sybase. We moved on the Azure and we solved their business problem, which is majorly on the farmer side, because they have 80,000 farmers. They have the reach out process to the farmers just to take care of their land, what they are actually what farming. So they are giving a lot of consulting on that area. They're giving it's kind of contract farming. So in the contract farming, there are a lot of things needs to be done from the company as well as from the farmer side. So there is a regular a data point needs to be collected manually. So what we are doing, we are actually using the IoT. We are making some access card for the individual as an identity and make sure we are giving the right information on the consulting on the farming land. The moment we have a farming land, it's very difficult operation point of view to reach out to the 80,000 people. So we make it self training to the farmers, and there's some area managers. So we are utilizing Azure IoT, Azure Functions. All these functions is small program as with a mobile app as well. It will be for the reach out process, and they are filling their information from their side. At the same time, all this information has to integrate with SAP to make sure they are getting the right information. It has to connect with their Weybridge integration just to make sure they're getting a GRN, all this stuff, because there is a payout process for the farmers. Generally, in the previous scenario, they're about to take 4 to 6 weeks to pay in the payout process, because in the contract farming, there are some areas that need to be adjusted as a payout process. So we reduce this payout time from 4 to 6 weeks. Now it's for 2 to 3 days now, and farmers very happy because they are getting all the route planning in the mobile when they have to come to the to Weybridge, which center they have to go, and over and all they're getting the payout information, and they can have their all the payout information transaction into their mobile app itself. So we are first converting their infrastructure from on-prem to the Azure, which is an immediate value, which is around 22%. The cost cutting reduction is there. At the same time, in the supply chain, that is a major business value for them. We reduce we give them 18% cost saving on the supply chain, because they were struggling on the road where they have to come, and most of the time they have to collect the information from the farmers. So Azure help their supply chain operation reduced by the cost reduced by 18% and the infrastructure cost by 22%, which is the biggest value for that company. And we delivered, and still we are working on some new innovations on the security point of view, how we can increase their mobile app experience. So still we are innovating with the customer, we are understanding the problem and solving with the technology. We are working on the background on the technology, and then the front we are understanding the business problem and giving them a solution. So this is the high level information on the users. After the session, I'm going to share these slides with you, so you can have a look and you can reach out to us for the questions. Now I'll just quickly touch upon the last slide, which is majorly on as a practice. So we have end-to-end understanding of the SAP operations. We have 70 plus customers across the globe. We have around 100 plus SAP as well as Azure team in-house available, which will be helping you in the different area like in Azure Data and AI, maybe on the Active Directory, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, how you can utilize Power Automate, how you can utilize Power BI. So we are there to help you on all of your business problem. I don't want to overrun with the technology. I would prefer you tell me your business problem, I'll give you the solution, and technology will be behind it. And we'll make sure when this tough COVID time, we'll make sure the cost, because if we use some of the business function on Azure, we can use some of the Azure function, just only some processes, some sandboxing, and we'll make sure the operation cost will be less for that. So in SAP and Azure, we take care of the network, security, compute, NADB to HANA, storage. In storage is very, very important for HANA because premium SSD gives you the 99.9% SLA over there. On the software update, we take care of in case if you're going to go for S4 HANA conversion, if you want to go for OS and DB migration, we are there to help you with SAP on Azure. We have some of our own IPs, accelerators. We are coming with the on the Azure marketplace. Those are accelerators, and for the migration, we create some differentiation and innovations when talk about industrial IoT and IoT. So industrial IoT, we are talking about the industry 4.0, how Azure can help in that area. We use industrial IoT in the reach out process for the farmers. That is industrial that is not the industrial IoT, but now we can work on the different segments, kind of how we can reduce the operation cost on the production side as well. So We have end-to-end expert on this these all areas. This is in a nutshell from my side on the at a glance. Now we talk about the managed services. Managed services are common everywhere for most of the provider. We are coming with the specialization on the enterprise applications like SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, these areas. But we predominantly focus on the SAP and Oracle and these areas. Why? Because these are business critical application and you need to have a specialized people who take care of not only the lift and shift, just to make sure how you can innovate in the future. So this is a nutshell for the managed services. Now coming to the question and answer, since we start a bit late, but we are on time, 45 minutes. So now we are open for the questions. Please go ahead, everybody. Iman, can you please take care of it? Okay, the question is how we can benefit on free assessment. Okay, the free assessment is giving you the idea what are the exactly lesson learned and the challenges, what is your specific challenges. Like I said, sometimes the customers, they are not configured, the solution manager, EW is not there, there's a lot of ambiguity, people are switching their job. So we are not asking the people, we are asking the system directly what's the landscape. Sometimes we have seen the version of SAP on dev is different, quality is different, production is different. And when they transport, there are a lot of challenges are coming up. Sometimes the table is giving very oversized on the particular table. The compression is not there. So we actually do a belief audit, which is there on our SAP on Azure free assessment. If you go on all the deliverables are there in detail. OK. I hope this answered your question. Which tool can you please elaborate? So the tool exactly is the Azure Migrate is the first choice because it gives you the TCO and the consumption. So we can do sizing based on the performance or based on the as-is. So we use Azure Migrate, Microsoft Assessment and Planning tool plus SAP Solution Manager EWA report. We analyze and then suggest. Third-party tools. There are a lot of other tools, but it depends when it's really required. But most of the time we use Azure Migrate. That is the best tool is recommended by Microsoft. OK, question migration from AnyDB to HANA. So migration from AnyDB to HANA, it depends. Let's example on the PAM, we have to take care of that. We have to take care of the SAP application. We use DMO migration. In the DMO also, whether we would like to use the DMO migration on Azure or we would like to use on-prem. So it depends case to case. But we will follow the SAP best practices because Microsoft is coming from the infrastructure point of view and giving the certified series. When it comes to the migration of SAP OS migration, DB migration, or the S/4HANA conversion or the migration or the greenfield, then we will follow the SAP best practices. We will take care of the product availability matrix, which is very, very important. We will analyze your environment and then give you the right path, which is the technical path recommended by SAP. I hope this answered your question. Any other question? Just a second. Yes, and Iman already pushed our assessment link. You can go over there and you can reach out to us. The deliverables is clearly mentioned over there. What we are going to do on the pre-assessment, post-assessment, everything is mentioned as a complete deliverables on there on the Azure Marketplace. By the way, we are coming with this our own app, which will be publishing very soon. All these accelerators, but we cannot reveal the information more than this. But we are coming with it. So assessment as well as the tool which we are utilizing internally for the acceleration of the migration, we will be published very soon. Kindly fill the survey form so that we can take your questions. Meanwhile, we still have some time. One of my friend is over here is Mohammad Garana. Mohammad Garana exactly. I worked with him one of the SAP on Azure migration 2.5, I think 3 years before. He can also talk about some of the areas on Azure, how the Azure latency, there is a challenge, how Azure is helping Azure backbone, all these areas. There is another questions. Question to the MS team. Do you have any? I'll take this question. Let me just Gurana, can you hear me? Are you there?
Yes, Sandeep, I'm here. Thanks
Yeah.
for the introduction.
Yeah, please, can you help me, help us guys, because on SAP we are covering at the same time the network is a latency is very, very important point, because if in the lesson learned we are taking care of which region we should select when we comes to the primary site and the secondary site, but there are some other hiccups maybe you come across. If you can share your experience, that will be great.
Yeah, I mean it's a very common question to hear from customers because they might be worried about the latency, since the SAP landscape or any other service in to be general is not hosted in their data center. But I mean, definitely with our data centers in UE region, it makes it much easier for UE customers. We have a data center in Dubai and a data center in Abu Dhabi with sometimes the latency reaches 3 milliseconds from customer side to the data centers here. So I think the latency numbers are very much acceptable. Should there be a situation where any service, where a particular service can be hosted in a region other than UE, let's say West Europe or North Europe, we do actually utilize some of the Azure backbone services. For example, Azure Front Door is a service that allows you to connect to an edge site here in UE and then utilize the Microsoft backbone to do a network communication from UE to, let's say, Amsterdam in West Europe. So should there be a requirement for a specific VMs queue that's not available in the data center here, we can still utilize Microsoft backbone to better have high performance, low latency network communication for our customers here in UE to a service in Azure in a non-UE region as well.
Thank you, Gurana. Thank you so much. So one of the attendee is asking for, or she's asking for, the greenfield scenario within the region. So Ali shared the reference link over there. You can filter by region, filter by industry specific. Then you can you come across some of the names over there. We can also help you, because I know for the greenfield implementation, sometimes you have to do the quick sizing. It's all maybe a user-based sizing, it may be a throughput-based sizing. So we have the capability to deliver the quick sizing. Sometimes the functional user, they're giving information, and to optimize that sizing, we recommend to use SAP quick sizing tool, create as a project, and from there we get the SAPS value. That SAPS value we can convert into the Azure infrastructure. So when you size this, when you come across exactly the based on the need of the system and the growth rate, so you can go for it. So you can freeze for 1 year. This is a warm-up phase, and just look at the growth of the data inside the organization on the SAP. Then later on you can go for the scale out, scale in functionality, or maybe you can go for a bigger VM. It depends when you go for it. Okay, I have another question. How can you differentiate with respect to the cost saving moving cloud BW to Azure cloud? Question. Okay, I'll go one by one. There's some few questions are there. So I think Hital, you can take these questions. This is OS and DB migration. Does SAP support Azure Migrator? But Azure Migrator is I think you're talking about the Azure Site Recovery. I believe it can be achieved only with the SUM. Yeah, it's as per my knowledge, it's with the SUM and DMO, because Azure Site Recovery is majorly just taking a VM level. When we go over there, then we can have a clone copy over there, sandbox, and move forward on the OS and DB migration. This is what I understood. Maybe yes. Ali, can you please highlight over here?
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep. For this question regarding the OS DB migration, does SAP support Azure Migrator? And I believe it can be achieved only with the Zoom tool and the DMO. So actually, when we talk about the SAP on the Microsoft Azure, every tool that we use is the SAP standard tools. So if you're looking for upgrade, migrate, or anything, we still keep with the SAP native tools like the Zoom tool and the DMO. However, when, as Sandeep just mentioned, when we talk about the Azure cloud, if you are looking from the virtual machine perspective and from the infrastructure perspective, we do have inside the Microsoft Azure the our own tools just to move from one virtual machine to the other. So for example, if we are looking in the DR scenario and you have your primary node in one data center, as I mentioned, and the other, your disaster recovery is on the other data center, and you just want to push and do the failover from one data center to the other. So in this case, we use our Azure native tool, like Sandeep mentioned, the ASR or the Azure Site Recovery in that perspective. And this is how we actually push from one virtual machine in one data center to the other. But definitely anything related to the SAP operational, we still do it with using the SAP native tool like the Zoom tool and the DMO.
Okay. So next question is, what is the minimum time is required for migration from Linux /DB2 to S/4HANA Azure? 11 TB DB2 data size. So for this one, I think nobody can immediately just come on the time based on the size you are giving, because there are a lot of other dependencies are there. It depends upon your own bandwidth, which data center you are selecting, and the data, how you can utilize. But by the way, there are some services from Azure, it's available called Azure data box services, where you can give your hard disk of the data. It goes into the center, and based on this request, we can take this the bigger size data, and just to make sure we are trying to reduce the time to get on the cloud, and we can take a delta changes via Azure Site Recovery. Am I right, Ali? Can you please?
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep. If you just allow me to just also add here, because this question is very good question actually for those customers, because we do have different customers, those who want to go shift and lift as is, like for this example, like this customer is on Linux on DB2, so he just want to go to the cloud as is, but this customer is actually looking to go to the S4. That means that his database is going to be changing from DB2 to the HANA database. Correct. So in this example, I would refer the one who's actually asked this question, he needs to generate the SAP node with the number I'm going to just refer now, which is 187.2170. Again, it's 187.2170. This SAP node you need actually to generate on the transaction S node in each and every system that runs Linux on DB2. And this is where you're going to get the HANA sizing report. And this HANA sizing report is going to be totally different from the size of the DB2 that you already have. And this is where actually we take this HANA sizing report, and accordingly we give you the virtual machines that's required based on this number. And again, as Sandeep mentioned, we can't give you an exact number on how much time that the migration could take. It depends on the multiple elements that's there, networks and everything. But first of all, we just need to understand what's the HANA migration node. It's going to bring us those numbers, and from there, Sandeep can walk you through the time frame based on the assessment test that he's going to be running with you.
Thank you, Ali. Actually, we have done the similar job. It's one from SQL Server. Sometimes even when you run this node, few things are not, we need to upgrade on the patch level. So we are doing this exercise in our assessment. You can reach out to us for this kind of workshop. We can help you in a proper technical roadmap in detail, that how we can help you with the help of, because each and every case we are discussing with Ali Adil to make sure we are doing the right commitment to you. So there is no ambiguity at the last moment. Now, next question I'm taking, how can we differentiate with respect to cost saving moving application from SAP BW to Azure Cloud? Hetal, can you please answer this question, because this is similar what we have recently submitted one proposal. Can you please highlight?
Yeah, basically the SAP BW, which we are doing for one customer, they are using right now HANA, and different integration is there, and they are looking their HANA database onto Azure. So basically we have done the sizing for them, and then we have suggested the right VM for them. So basically, if you see, most of the customer thinks that if, okay, I'm running BW, I would be having so and so RAM, and in terabytes RAM, it would run very efficiently, as I mentioned. But we do the sizing based on the nodes, and thereby we come to the conclusion to the sizing, and we can lift and shift the HANA over there, and we have readily as we mentioned that we have a scripts available by which we can provision the same scenario in the Azure, and we can provision the instance, and we can then have a backup and recovery of the system if customer is ready to go with SAP tools.
Thanks, Hetal. So one point over here is the cost saving. I want to highlight because I'm a techno promoter. So the cost saving, sometimes when you use the dev environment, we use test and dev environment in the snooze strategy, where when it is required, then only we utilize it. So that will be a very good cost saving on these areas. As per my knowledge, I think quality is not there in the BW, but you can use production. In the production also, maybe on-premise oversize, we will do the proper sizing to make sure you are spending less and you're spending and paying as and when required. Let's example, snooze is utilizing when you are actually not utilizing your dev environment. Second, when you use your production, we do the performance workshop with you to make sure we are giving the right sizing of the VM. And another question we have over here is how the HANA backup solution works. Can it be looked as alternative of DR in some cases? So this is one question. I think it's copied multiple times, but the same question. I think Hetal and Ali, you can take this question. It's related to our Azure backup service along with the HANA.
Yeah, we are doing so for so many customers. We are doing the same exercise. If they are having HANA backup, they can obviously can have a DR solution. Means they don't have to pay for the VMs. We provision the backup in such a manner that they have regular backups, and then they can have log backups at a regular interval. And when they want to provision the DR, they just have to restore those backups in the HANA VM, so that way they can have a DR as well and up and running as and when they want. So they don't have to pay more, like every for 24/7. If it keeps on running, it will charge more. So it's better to have a backup as a solution, and then you can provision DR as and when required. Okay. So I hope I answered that question. Ali, you want to add anything?
I would answer it in a different fashion
go ahead.
as an SAP guy. So I won't accept, of course, to have the backup as an alternative for a DR. Backup is a backup. It's a must. It's as per the SAP standards. So we should have a backup. However, when we look at the downtime of the SAP system landscape, for those customers who's running a heavily complex SAP landscapes, they understand how much the SAP is meaning for them, and they even can't have the SAP downtime for a long period of time. However, that's why we have this disaster recovery solution, and we try to architect the SAP on the Microsoft Azure side in a fashion way that we, as far as we can, we try to minimize the downtime for the SAP. So the disaster recovery is very important for the customers, for their production system, with the alignment of having also the backup. So the backup can't be replaced with the disaster recovery solution. However, in some cases, because this person who actually asked this question, he said in some cases. So this is the assessment that and the workshop that partners like Sandeep here and Brahms, they can do this assessment for you, and they can tell you if this case that we're talking in, that we can not having the disaster recovery as Hetal just mentioned, and reduce the cost with only having the right backup solution as per SAP standards, or we actually require a disaster recovery. And of course, partners like Brahms and Sandeep here and Hetal, they can give you the risk assessments there, and where the risks that you can face, and then the decision at the end is going to be for the customers to decide.
Thanks, Ali. Thanks. So guys, we are waiting for your response. We haven't received the survey fill so far. Can you please quickly fill the survey so that we can conclude? I want to touch upon one area related to this query only. Sometimes customer goes with a cost conscious approach where they're saying, okay, we need a DR in this scenario, that scenario. As Ali said, we are giving all the risk analysis to the customer, and customer is going to decide on all these technical aspects. We talk about the recommendation from SAP and Microsoft. Still, we are getting these are the other areas, but choice is yours. So we are giving all this information. So Ali has to drop this call. I hope there is no questions left. Is there any other question left so far? Hope we answered all the questions. Iman, can you please confirm so that we can conclude the call? Okay, no more questions. So I'm just jumping on the survey. Let me see how many responses we have received so far. Okay, we have received 7 responses so far. Okay, so on the, is anybody left, or should we conclude on the call? Okay, I'll do the last refresh and conclude the call. Same responses. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope we answered all of your questions. It's interesting for you, but we are more than happy to help you in case you have any query on the SAP workshop. You want to understand SAP value proposition. You want to see some demo we have prepared on single sign-on and this kind of accelerators. We are more than happy to answer. After the session, you can reach out to me on sandeep@brahms.com. I'm available on LinkedIn. I'm available on the email. It's there in the slides. I'll be sharing these slides along with my other attendance information. You can reach out to us for any query. Thank you very, very much for attending this session.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Ali. Thank you very much. Thanks, Hetal. And thank you very much, Ahmed Bhai. Okay.